channel. Okay, for a few, give me a bit of
Can you hear me now? I don't hear any feedback. Oh,
I sneeze.
I did sneeze.
Folks, this is Ken QMC with not Clan business
Can you hear me
community
now?
and the
I
OSA
don't hear any
network.
feedback.
I have my guest, Wes Kowalchuk, a
I
great
did sneeze.
entrepreneur, and I will give him a few moments to introduce himself. Wes, go for it. This is Ken QMC.
Hey everybody, how you doing
Muted.
tonight? My name is Wes Kowalchuk. I'm the founder of Business Impact. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. I run a business coaching firm, and I specifically work with trade contractor businesses that typically do between 300 and 3 million in top line revenue, who are really, really frustrated with the results they're currently getting out of their business. And we typically help them 2x their revenues and generate predictable growth within 12 to 24 months.
Awesome, Wes. I thank you for that. Now, Wes and I said a small prayer before we started. Just as we do for our meeting, if we could have talked to you. So, I had a long day today. I was meeting with the realtors and such, and as my days go. Wes has a busy day and schedule. We have half an hour for employee ready to get our shit together, as I like to say. Um, I have three questions for Wes, and then he's going to walk you through cash flow for business. Is that right, Wes?
That's correct. It's the financial, how to understand your financials.
Okay. So my first question for Wes is, what's your worst experience in business?
That's, you know, in business, especially if you've been in business for a while, there's a lot of bad experiences. And that's how we learn. We learn through those mistakes. But my biggest mistake was in 2015. I had to file personal bankruptcy on the 23rd of December and close my oil and gas service business down after operating for 10 years. It was heartbreaking. And at that point in time, you know, we'd gone from the beginning of the year at $100 barrel oil to the end of the year where oil was trading at like 20 bucks a barrel, and everybody was fighting over food scraps. And three of the projects that we bid on in November, we lost to competitors who were nowhere near as good as we were, but more importantly, they didn't have their costs under control. They were buying their products and their materials from a distributor. We were getting them right from the manufacturer at a much better deal, and we were losing money. So I know it cost them a lot of money to stay in business after that. But you know, we went into debt. We were in debt over $1 million, and we had to move out of the nice home we were living in and moved in with my sister-in-law and her family into their 3-bedroom condo. Very humbling experience. It was very tough mentally on me. I have an amazing wife, and she was my rock through it all. It allowed me to come through that in relatively good form. I won't say it was great, but it was good, in good form. And so there's some big lessons that were learned out of that. And this is where this understanding of financials part of this training that I created came from. Because when I look back at what happened in 2015. I went back to 2014 and I started looking at my financials and I realized there were some red flags that were showing up that I didn't pay attention to. And it caused me a lot of heartache and pain at the end of the year when we filed bankruptcy, right? We actually didn't even file bankruptcy for the business. Funny point. When I phoned the business trustee, they said, well, we'll certainly take you on. We need a $50,000 retainer. And I said, do you think if I had $50,000, I'd be calling you? So we ended up just walking away from the business because there was nothing left to salvage, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the most difficult thing I've done in business. And it was a very humbling experience. Yeah. And that essentially put me where I am today in trying to help business owners navigate this chaotic world of entrepreneurship.
Now, I'll let you know, folks, Wes and I have known each other for several years, and he's helped me survive a lot of trouble. So that brings us to another question. It's a mirror image of that. What's your best experience?
So my best experience probably would have been when I figured out our marketing. It's kind of a funny story. I had a mentor, a very good friend of mine, Sean Beamish. He owns a number of companies, but he was kind of mentoring me one day, and I called him just complaining about not enough money, not enough cash, not enough whatever, right? And he said, well, what are you doing for marketing? And I said, well, I call up my clients. I say, hey, you need our stuff. Let's come to Calgary. We'll do a meeting and we'll get some stuff figured out for you guys. And he goes, no. He said, when you figured out your marketing, you'll figure out the rest of the stuff. So I spent some time trying to figure out what I needed to be doing in the marketing. And when I figured that out, and I hired my own coach, key thing here, hired a coach. We hired them for 4 months. It cost me a ton of money. It was like 40 grand. But in that 4 months, we put enough stuff in place with the marketing. I mean, we dug deep. We did market research. We did customer surveys. We did analysis. We did all kinds of crazy stuff. But in that 4 months, we had learned enough about marketing that in that year, we doubled our revenue. Mm-hmm. Went from 700,000 to just over 1.3 million. And then we did it again the next year. We almost hit 2.5 million the next year. So in 24 months, we went from $700,000 in revenue. I think we were 4 years into business then. And so by year 6, we were at $2.5 million in revenue.
And just to show you how important marketing is, I take a company from $4,000 a month to $2.8 million closing out the year.
Nice. That's impressive.
And I've gone to Wes for help too on things, and he's helped me. He's got courses and education that showed me things I didn't know.
Well, and that's just it. Like in business, we don't know what we don't know until somebody shows us that we don't know it. And
exactly. That's my point too. Is we don't know so much that we can go to 30 different coaches and get 30 different points that we didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Wes, that brings us to another point. What's your takeaway from all that for new entrepreneurs just getting started that are struggling?
Well, so this is another story I want to share. You need to know what your numbers are so that you kind of have a good pulse on your business. When I talk about numbers, you need to know what your financials are. You need to know what your top line revenue is. You need to know what your cost of goods are. You need to know what your gross profit is, right? Those 3 numbers are probably the most important, right? But then of course overhead operating expenses, you need to have a handle on those. I had an opportunity to be mentored by I don't know if he was a billionaire at the time, but he is now. He was well into the 9 figures, like he was in the hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And I had the opportunity to meet with him, and he was mentoring me. And so I was really excited. I drove 3.5 hours from Camrose to Calgary in my diesel burner, F450 with the big duals on it. Drove that to Calgary, and you know what it's like finding a parking spot in Calgary for a truck that big
downtown there. I know.
Yeah, it's not fun. So I finally got parked, met him on the 43rd floor in one of the buildings right behind the Shell Tower. I think it's the Encana building, or it was the Encana building. And I get up into his office and he invites me in and he asks me if I want a coffee. And I said, sure. And so he asked his secretary to grab me a coffee. And while we're waiting for the coffee, he turns to me and he goes, so what are your numbers? And I go, I'm so excited you asked. I opened my portfolio and I pulled out my P&L. I go, they're right here. And he goes, no, what are your numbers? And I go, well, they're right here. Let me tell you, I'll look them up. And he goes, no, what are your numbers? And I said, well, they're right here on my P&L. And he said, if you can't tell me what your numbers are off the top of your head, you're not paying attention to them. So get out of my office and don't come back until you know what they are. I wasn't in his office 5 minutes. And I drove, got in my truck, pissed right off. I drove an hour and a half, probably got to Red Deer before it dawned on me, before it clicked in what he was trying to teach me. And what he was trying to teach me was, if you're not paying attention to your P&L statement often enough, like looking at it daily so that you know exactly where you are financially to make better business decisions, you don't know what your business is doing and you're winging it. You're playing at being a business owner, but you actually just have a job, right? The business is running you, not you running the business.
Exactly, and that's what the phrase "working on your business, not in your business" comes from.
That's right.
So if you don't know the ins and outs of your numbers of your business daily, you don't know your business.
No, definitely not. And you can't make good business decisions. And or more importantly, you can't take advantages of opportunities when they come because you don't know where you're at financially.
That's right. That's right. So that brings us to an opportunity for you, Wes. Introduce your cash flow strategy to us.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we're just in the process of launching our business acceleration masterclass, as you can see right behind me here. It's a 7-module program. And what I'm going to share with you is one of the videos or one of the first lessons in the first module of financial mastery, what I call financial mastery. I can share my screen, can I?
If you can't, I can make it so you can. Go ahead.
Allow to share screen.
There should be a whiteboard or something, or what's your screen there on your on a little wheel? Yeah, there you go.
I don't know what happened. Let's not do that. Let me go here and then go slideshow and then
For folks, we use Radio Ninja for video sharing, and Wes never used it, so it's learning as we discussed. I haven't walked him through it.
allow to share window. No, I want to share this window. There we go. Yep. Did that work? Yes, it did. Slideshow. Play.
Share with the
So can you guys see my screen? Does it say profit and loss statement?
They don't see it. Let me make it so it's visible to them. Just give me 1 second, Wes.
Yeah, sure.
I have to make it. It's the third screen that I have to make available. I gotta get my mouse over to the first. So you're gonna disappear. Open. There you go. It's all yours.
Awesome. Everyone can see me. So essentially, there's 7 things on your profit and loss statement that are the most important lines you need to understand. I mean, there's other lines you need to go in and monitor your expenses and your sales and stuff, but these are the most important. Revenue, which is top line, cost of goods or COGS, as it is written here, gross profit percentage, and the reason why is your percentage number is a quick way to calculate how well you're doing on a project by project basis. Overhead, of course, those are all your fixed expenses like insurance and amortization and your mortgage and those kind of things. And then net profit percentage. So I want to run through a little bit of scenario here: gross revenue, variable costs, overhead, profit. So to get your gross profit percentage, divide that by your revenue and times it by 100. Gives you your percentage, fixed costs, net profit, or your bottom line, if you will. And then net profit percentage, again, is net profit divided by your revenue times 100. So I want to share with you just an example. And I mentioned earlier that I work with trades, businesses, and contractors that are doing, $300,000 in top line revenue up to $3 million. So let's just start with this 300,000. We'll use a fictitious company. Cost of goods, typically around $180,000. Gross profit. Now, revenue minus COGS is your gross profit. So that leaves you $120,000 or 40%. And just so you know, I urge all of my contractors to get their gross profit up to 50%, because if they're not, they're usually stealing from their family to put gas in their truck to go to work. Typical overhead runs around $60,000. Net profit, so $120,000 of gross profit minus your overhead leaves $60,000 net profit, or 20% net profit. So there's only 3 numbers in this whole page that you can directly impact. The rest are just outcomes. The first one, of course, is your revenue, cost of goods.
Slide 11?
Say again?
Are you still on slide 11? We're seeing slide 11.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Are you still on slide 11? Because we still see slide 11.
Oh, I don't know. I've got numbers on my page. Are you following the numbers? There's 2 numbers with circles around them.
I don't see any circles.
No. Do you see the numbers on it? Do you see the 300,000?
I don't see 300,000.
You don't see it?
No.
That's not good. Do you see this page?
There you go. Now we got it. Now I see a circle numbers of 300,000.
Yeah, so when I do this slideshow, you're not seeing the numbers show up.
It's showing up now.
Oh, okay, good. So then revenue, cost of goods, and overhead are the only 3 numbers you can directly impact. What I want to share with you guys tonight is a simple way by tweaking these numbers by increasing your revenue and reducing your cost and your overhead by a simple 5% in each one of those, how it can have a huge impact on your bottom line. And it's very easy to do and no cost to you, right? So let's look at the revenue. So revenue is the total amount of sales that you get for any reporting period, right? Prior to any deductions. So that's, the invoice that gets paid, that's your revenue, right? So when you sell any product or service, it's a total amount. And that figure indicates your ability to sell goods and services, but does not necessarily indicate your ability to generate profit. And there's a key thing there. Mm-hmm. So COGS.
So just to interrupt a second.
Yep.
That is a total revenue for your cost of goods sold and services sold. That is not minus the expenses.
No, revenue is just whatever money comes in before you spend it. That's your revenue, right?
Yeah.
That's the only number you can impact. The more you sell, the more you make. If you don't go out and sell, you don't make anything. Right? And that's why
goods and services income generating.
Yeah, you have to focus on income generating activities for sure. And then and there's ways you can do that. Instead of selling 1-to-1, you can start figuring out ways to sell 1-to-many. And that's one of the ways in my marketing program that we were able to capture so much revenue in such a short period of 24 months. We started selling 1-to-many, right? So, and I can share some of that. Absolutely. So in this instance, cost of goods is $180,000, right? but this is the cost that is directly attributed to that sale, right? So the things that we did, we delivered liners and steel out to the project site. We drove out there. We had guys out there as well that put all those pieces together, assembled them, and finished them. And that, all of that, those wages, the fuel, the truck, all that stuff during that time is considered a cost of good to that project. So when it comes to construction projects, that's how you have to track your cost of goods for each project. That needs to be attributed to that project, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you include office expenses in that, HR and accounting and legal in that as well?
No. What those go into overhead, not cost of goods.
Yeah.
If
So
we need to make sure we cover,
number.
overhead, we'll add a percentage onto our invoice for overhead, like 10% for overhead. That way we make sure we're making enough profit to make sure we get that covered, right? And a lot of clients understand that, and they certainly don't have too big of issues with it, right? So when we look at cost of goods, labor, so if you have subcontractors, that goes under cost of goods as well. Materials, any waste that you have, and this is really, really important. If you mess something up and you have to go back and do it again, that you lose all your profit there, because it has to go back and somebody has to pay for your team to go back out there and fix it.
Yeah.
Any packaging, distribution, shipping, and commissions for sales staff. So those are the kind of things that you have to watch out for cost.
So like readers and our cost of goods as well.
Yeah. So one thing I want to mention too is if you're in a professional type business, so a dentist, chiropractor, massage therapist, right? Cost incurred to deliver your goods. You don't have a cost because there is no cost to deliver, right? All your costs would fall under your overhead, like your massage tables or your chiropractic tables or your office manager, office equipment. All that falls under overhead, not cost of goods. That's the difference between professional businesses and contracting businesses.
Or retail.
Right. So here's an example of professional businesses. Business coach. So I have no cost of goods delivering my services. Financial planners, web designers, chiropractors, law firm, accountants, brokers, those kind of guys.
Yeah.
So the last number or the last line on your P&L that you can have influence on or manage is your overhead or your fixed costs, right? So in this example, it was $180,000, but these are the costs that you get to incur regardless of whether you go out and make a sale, right? So you turn the light switch on in your office, that's an overhead, that's a fixed cost. You're getting billed for that, right? Mortgage, rent, insurance, office supplies, advertising, janitorial, utilities, auto expenses, all that stuff falls in. Yeah, insurance for sure. They happen every month, whether you make a sale or not, right? For those of listeners that are in the oil patch, memberships to IS Networld or PIX or ComplyWorks, those are all overhead. That's all cost of doing business, but it falls under overhead because you can't attribute it to any single particular project because it's attributed to each one of your clients.
Yeah.
Per se.
Your safety management program and so on.
Yeah, correct. So how we're going to do this is there's only 5 things that you can focus on. And I want to talk briefly about the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the effort you put in garners 20% of the results. But if you flip that and if you put in 20% on the right things, it will produce 80% of the result. It's called the Pareto principle, right? So everything you're doing, right, every day in your business, no matter what it is, it's supposed to generate results. But if you were to actually analyze it, and the powers that be have analyzed it, 20% of what you actually do generates 80% of your revenue. The rest of the time you spent, that 80%, is more wasted time, right? And I don't know about you, but in this crazy day and age, wasting our time shouldn't be what we're doing. We need to focus more of our efforts on that 20% or more, right?
Oh,
So
yeah,
here's the
I
5 areas that
totally
make
agree
up
with you.
that 20%. These are what I call the money-making activities for your business, right? More leads, getting more leads in your business. That's the gas that goes into your gas tank. If you don't have any gas in your gas tank, your business ain't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have leads. But more importantly, you also need to be able to convert them to actual buying, paying customers. Then you need to get them to come back more often and buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So more transactions,
Mm-hmm.
right? Get more people in. You know,
Can
you
I give an
notice
example,
nowadays,
Wes?
say again?
Can I give an example?
So more leads. So that would be like a
So I
Facebook
was going to give an
advertising
example because
campaign.
I took your courses and I followed your example this last 2 weeks. And I
Okay.
spent 2 hours a day generating leads. And I got 14
Yeah.
good leads in 2 days.
Nice.
And I got shortlisted on 6 of them with clients. I got 2 discovery meetings out of that.
What?
And I'm just sailing. And that's using
That's
your method.
well. The thing is this stuff works, but most people they get when they're in startup mode of their business, they're out there hustling, they're going and going and going, and they get their first client, and they're all excited, and then they have to go deliver on it, and then and this is where my revenue in the early stages of my business looked like a bad heart rate monitor because I'd make a sale, revenue would go up, and then I'd have to go deliver it, and my revenue would drop because I was out in the field. Then I had to go back to Calgary and make another sale, and then go back out in the field, make another sale. So my revenue kept going up and down like this, and it was really hard to pay any kind of bills like that.
So like my
So to
recommendation
eliminate,
to the service industry is get your marketing in place and get a team marketing generating constant revenue of 2 to 3 each month.
well, in today's world of online marketing, there's no need for you to be actively out there marketing your stuff when you can have it all on automation,
No, with the
and you can
new
do.
chatbots and that you can and
Oh,
AI you
absolutely.
can have marketing programs doing it all for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's probably the biggest challenge is a lot of folks, when you say the word planning, their eyes glaze over. We have to have a plan in place, a marketing plan and a strategy so that we can implement the right tools and the right AI or the right automation to make it all work. So if you can generate more leads on automation where you don't have to be physically doing the work, or even if you hire some staff to go out and do that, telemarketers, for example, get those leads in the door. And once they're in the door, if you have proper training in place for your team so that they can sell your clients and help them solve their problems by buying your product or your service, that allows you to convert more of them. But through best customer service, we're not talking just great customer service, we're talking best customer service. You can keep those customers longer and you can get them to come back and buy from you more often. And if you have to raise your prices, they won't squabble about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is kind of where the 80-20 rule comes back in, right? If you look at your list of customers, do a printout of list of customers by revenue, the top 20% of your customers generate 80% of your revenue.
Yeah, I totally
The
agree.
other 80%, especially the ones down on the bottom of the list, the ones on the bottom of the list tend to be the tire kickers that waste most of your time. And
And they
so
do waste your
they're
time, generally.
absolutely, and you're better off firing them and saying, "Here's a business card of my competitor. Go have fun,"
I
because you don't
passed
want
out
to
too
deal
many business cards, Wes.
right? So the fourth one we need to talk about is higher prices, and we're going to talk about that tonight, and then talk about more profits. How do we get more profits? But these are the 5 money makers that you need to be focused on in your business every day, and I'll show you why. Because they will create huge exponential changes. Now, I'm just going to run you through. I call this my cash flow calculator. I'm going to give you an example of a business, 1,000 leads. Now, it could be annually, could be, if you're an online business, could be monthly, who knows? But if you have 1,000 leads come in the door,
Did you change your slide?
pardon?
Do you need to change your slide?
Did I change the slide? I
Do you
did.
need to?
I did. Did it not change?
No, it didn't. There you go. Good
You know
now.
what? It's
Good
not.
now.
It's not changing in the slideshow. Let me see if it'll work here now. So, are you seeing my slideshow? No, you're not. You are seeing.
Yeah, I'm seeing your slideshow. I see monetize your P&L.
Are you seeing the
Cash
slideshow?
flow calculator.
Are you seeing the thumbnails on the left?
Yep.
Yeah. So you're not actually seeing the slideshow. You're just seeing the presentation. So, now let me see how I can make this work. So here's the baseline: 1,000 leads. And if you sell 1 in 4, which is 25% conversion, you have $250 customers.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get them to come back and buy from you 10 more times, and you charge them $100 per visit, you just made $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can garner 25% profit, right, of that 250, you get to put $62,000 in your pocket at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But look what happens with an incremental increase. 10% increase. I don't know, will this work? Don't know if it'll work. There we go. 10% increase. So that's only 100 more leads. And it's only a 2.5% increase in your conversion rate. But you've increased your customers from 250 to 303, which is like a 15% increase, not 10. And when we go down to more transactions, you get them to come back and buy one more time, and you raise your prices, let's say 10%. So you're charging your clients $110 for that same item. But because you give such excellent customer service, they don't have a problem with it, and they keep coming back and they keep buying it because they love what you do, right? You've just increased your revenue from 250,000 to 366,000. That's a 41% increase in revenue. And then look at your profit. 50, I think it's, no, sorry, I had the numbers wrong. Your profit, $100,000 from 62 is 41%. I think
Yep. Just an example, Wes. Following your advice and rules, I increased my rate from 125 to 135, and I had to hire 2 more staff to keep up.
Absolutely. So let me show you what's going to happen here with these incremental increases that you create. I'm going to show you how, by using your P&L statement, you can add $15,000 to your bottom line in the next 90 days, right? So this cash flow calculator, if you can master this, doing 50% increase in more leads and conversions and more transactions, higher prices, is a no-brainer. It is super easy to do, but most people don't know what they don't know, and they struggle with it. Mm-hmm. But if you were to go out and in the next 12 months, put some strategies in place to generate more leads on automation, bring in a sales team to help you create better conversions, customer service team that makes them come back and buy from you more often. They love what you do, so you can charge more for it. You can put $500,000 in your jeans at the end of the year.
That works. It actually works. Real world examples. It works.
94% of small businesses in Canada will never make $1 million. Will never make $1 million in revenue.
That's true.
6% of the businesses do.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's stopping you is understanding this process.
Yep.
And applying it. So let's go back to our example here. Here's the 3 numbers we can focus on: revenue, cost of goods, and your overhead. And so let's take this revenue. We're going to increase it by 5%. So if you increase it by 5%, that gives you $315,000 gross revenue. If this is the only number we change, and that's as simply as saying, hey, cost of everything's gone up, we need to increase our prices. How many people, if you raised your rates by 5%, would they complain? Do you think the top 20% on your customer list would say, nope, 5%, I'm leaving? No, it's more like the
Top
ones on
20% will say, okay, that's fine. Keep the
that's
good
fine.
service going.
The ones on the bottom will leave, and you can say bye, right?
The
But
top,
look what,
the bottom 30% will say bye and gone.
yeah, absolutely. So look what it does. Your cost of goods doesn't change, but your gross profit does. 315,000 minus 180 is 135,000. That gives you 43% increase, or a 3% increase in your gross profit. Your overhead doesn't change, but your net profit is up by what? 15,000. That's a 4% increase, right? Just by changing one number. This is only 300,000. What if you were doing $1 million in revenue and you increased it by 5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at COGS, your cost of goods. Let's lower the cost of goods by 5%. And this is as simple as phoning your vendors, saying, hey, we've been loyal with you guys for last couple of years. We'd like you to give us a 5% discount. How hard would that be? Right? Simple, make a phone call. You've 300,000 minus 171 is 129. That's another 3% increase in your gross profit. Your overhead doesn't change. Your net profit, though, goes up by $9,000. It's a 4% increase. That's pretty cool. So let's look at your overhead. Let's lower your overhead by 5%, right? And there's companies out here, out in the world. Mickey Pendergast is a gentleman I know in Calgary. He does this. He helps businesses lower their overhead costs by with internet, IT security, garbage, recycling, a whole bunch of different things they do. They don't charge anything for it up front. They only take it on the back end after they can show you a savings in your overhead. So hire these guys, get 5%. Boom. You've increased your net profit by $3,000. That's 1%. But look what it does when you do all of them. So we go back here. I'm just going to skip that. Here's the impact in all three areas. Went from 120,000 gross profit to 144,000. That's a 46% increase. Dropped your overhead by 3,000. That gives you $87,000 net profit. That's a 7.5% increase.
That's a nice touch. That's a nice touch.
That's a net profit of $27,000.
Mm-hmm.
Did it cost you anything? No.
Not really. It's a math.
No. Just a little bit of math, right? So, this is one of the next pages here in my presentation. But if you apply this process and understanding the cash flow calculator and how you can transform those 5 areas in your business, you can change your business in a substantial way without really doing a whole lot of things different than what you're doing right now. You're just tweaking it. But here's the challenge that most business owners have. A lot of business owners want that millionaire paycheck, but most of them are still thinking like thousandaires. And the challenge that we all have as business owners is if we're not willing to work on ourselves, to improve ourselves, to become critical thinkers, to get ourselves into that space where we're thinking like millionaires or multimillionaires, our business will never get there. Because
and part of that is thinking
we're
of
holding
a
it back.
strategic plan and setting goals and timelines and deadlines and the whole work. Let me put you up again. Let me put you back on screen.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's really powerful. Once you know what you need to be focused on, then you focus on all that stuff, and you can hire staff. Like you can hire virtual assistants in the Philippines for a few dollars an hour to do all the mundane stuff that you don't want to do, so that you can focus on these 5 things to generate revenue for you. So that's the first lesson in my the first video lesson that goes through. No worries. That's just going to show that's our first video lesson in our business acceleration masterclass. It's a 22-week program. And if you're currently living in Alberta, you will qualify. This program qualifies for the Canada Alberta Job Grant. So you can have 60% of this course paid for by the Alberta government, which is really cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it sounds good here on my end.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely. So that was a great discussion. That course is invaluable. I took it as well. Similar one, not that one. His master class. Do you want to mention the other master class for us, or is it still available?
So currently you can pre-register for the master class, and I'm just going to put the link in the chat here if anyone wants to pre-register for it. Can't even spell.
Which chat are you putting it in?
The one at the bottom of the screen here.
Copy the link, pasting it in the show notes.
Perfect.
So, Wes, you got any final words before we close out the podcast?
Yeah. Couple of books I'd recommend, highly recommend everyone reads. Probably one of the most important ones. If you're a contractor or anyone in that space, there's a number of there's so many books out there, literally. But one of the best books I think I've ever read is trying to remember the name of the author. His first name's Joe, but it's a very small book. It's called As a Man Thinketh. And I read that book years ago, and it never really clued in. And this is a perfect example of getting our mindset in the right space to absorb what we need to know. And as a man thinketh is what you think is who you become.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like who you are, you need to change what you think. And it's all essentially by, you have to have, just listening to a book the other day, and he talked about 3 things you need to have. First one is you need to have faith. Whatever religion, whatever spiritual guidance you have, follow it. Use it as a tool to help you be better. You have to have good intentions. And then most importantly is you have to put that into action. Right? So if you have faith, you have good intentions, and you put it into action through association, right? And I always use this. I love using this. If you associate, and I'll give an example. If you put a priest in with a bunch of bikers, and the priest is going to try and convert the bikers, do you think over time the priest will be successful in converting those bikers, or will the bikers convert him?
Most likely, a group of bikers will convert the priest.
That's right. And then the other way around, you put a biker in with a bunch of priests. Is the biker going to convert the priest? No, it's probably going to be the priest convert the biker. It's because of association. You're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most,
Exactly.
and the books you read. And so if you're not reading good books and you're not hanging around with people that inspire you to become a better human being, you need to take some serious soul searching and get rid of those people in your life that are toxic or detrimental, and go out and actively search through networking groups or activities that you enjoy doing. Find people that will inspire you to become a better human being. Then you will start to garner some of that association, and you can couple that with your good intentions, and then couple that with your faith, and you will be successful in your life. Doesn't matter whether you're in business or not. You'll be successful in your job, in your career, in your relationships, with your family members, right? You'll have it all come together through those 3 things, the trifecta, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Awesome words, Wes. Thank you very much. Well, folks, this has been Wes Kowalchuk with your host, KnTST from the North Carolina community. I am from the OSA Network of Business, and my guest is Wes Kowalchuk, an entrepreneur of great spirit and great success, and a great coach and a great mentor. I call him my friend, and I hope he someday is going to call me his friend.
Absolutely, you are, Ken.
Okay, you take it, Wes. Have a good night. I know you're
Awesome.
in BC and an hour behind me in Pacific time. Take care and enjoy the mountains.
Absolutely.
And the 40 above heat.
Yeah, exactly.
Take care, Wes.
Good night.